children that were killed. So I decided to look at our own situation here in Hendry County. I got with the Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Puletti, and I said, Paul, we have to do something to protect our children. At that time, we had only 4 school resource officers in the entire Hendry County school system, 2 in the middle schools and 2 in the high schools, which left our elementary schools unsecure. So with the help of Mr. Puletti and the Hendry County Board of County Commission, we were able to obtain funding to provide school resource officers for all the schools in Hendry County. These deputies are specially trained, and they're trained in the active shooter programs. They do have their long rifles in the schools with them in a secure location. This allows them to react quickly if something was to occur in a school, such as an active shooter situation. As you know, time is of the essence when something like this occurs. The faster we can respond, the more lives are saved. So we come up to Parkland, and we got to looking again, and I said, you know, we really need to do more. Too many kids are dying. So once again, I got with Mr. Puletti, and we talked about a lot of things. We talked about hardening the schools. We talked about metal detectors. We talked about bulletproof glass, anything you can think of. The problem is those things need to be implemented. Mental health, that's a big one. It needs to be implemented. But the reality of it is that stuff takes time and it takes money. We really don't have either right now. And what I'm worried about is something happening immediately tomorrow. You know, Parkland was too close to home, in my opinion. What we're looking at doing is selecting qualified, capable staff members. Now, I want to make it clear, not necessarily teachers, but these are going to be staff members in the schools. We will take them, we will put them through a background check, same as we do our fully sworn officers, psychological testing, polygraph testing, drug testing. We want to make sure that these people are safe and mentally stable being in our schools with our children. That's the first priority. Once they qualify and get through all those exams and tests, then we will take them and put them through our tactical law enforcement active shooter course. Now, we've actually taken this course and enhanced it. The requirements are actually slightly higher than what is required for a normal, regular deputy. Again, we're doing this because we want to ensure that these people are 100% capable and safe in our schools around our children. We've gotten a tremendous amount of support here in Hendry County for this program. You know, there's a couple people out there that just don't want guns around our kids. And number one, our guns are not going to be around our kids. These teachers are going to be anonymous. They will be carrying concealed. You will never know who has it. So again, the kids are not going to be around guns. That's just not going to happen. However, you know, one thing to think about, if an active shooter was to come in any one of our schools right now and walk on campus and start shooting children, what happens if the first person they kill is our SRO, our deputy there? Then what? Our children are left helpless, defenseless, running for their lives. So we can't leave them to the wolves anymore. We have to take a stance, and we have to take action and do it now. So I think that this program, again, nothing's guaranteed, you know, but we have to take action. The other thing too is deterrent. A lot of these shooters, if they know that there's somebody on the other side that's going to return fire back to them, they're not going to come in. So we're going to do what we can to better protect our children and our babies here in Hendry County. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Debbie from Channel 2, Fort Myers. I think addressing the other side, which you said some people in the community have voiced they may not be on board with this. For some of those folks, and we've had conversations with, the guns not being around the children, we get the concealed side of it, but others have this question of the liability. What if kid who's upset or has a behavioral issue figures out who's carrying and they get a hold of that gun, and then that gun was in the school already, and I know the liability thing comes down to the school system, and that's a legitimate concern.
First, and let me address this. First of all, and I forgot to mention this, once they get through the program and they successfully complete the program, I will take them and swear them in as special deputies under Statute 30.09. At that time, they are sworn deputies. They're law enforcement officers. But to answer your question, and my question to them, I've received that question as well, is what's the difference right now? Right now, we have deputies walking around in the schools, open carrying. We've never had an issue with that. Yes, ma'am.
So I heard you and also Superintendent, when we spoke with you yesterday, say not necessarily teachers. Are teachers for sure going to be excluded? Is there, the possibility that some teachers will be carrying weapons?
That would be something I can. Thank you, Sheriff. First of all, with this whole program, I want to make it amply clear, and I tried to make it clear yesterday, this falls squarely into the approval process of the Hendry County School Board. So the school board received this information Tuesday night. They have to do their due diligence. Among their concerns, I'm sure, is going to be the liability question, compensation pieces, and everything else. So this is going to require the school board to establish a set of policies. And under Florida law, the school board establishes school policies. They're also going to have to approve the budget for this program, okay? Under Florida law, that falls within the purview of the scope of duties of the school board. The earliest we can get any of this to the board is going to be March 27th, and that's the earliest. That's not necessarily the time that it's going to go. Now, we have grave concerns about Army teachers. I can't say that they would be automatically excluded, but the concern we have would be the decision a teacher who has 18 to 25 students in their classroom is going to have to make. Do I leave these children and go somewhere else, or do I stay here and protect? So we really don't want them to have that internal debate. However, there are other staff members who we could look at and say, would you be interested in this? Okay. Now, along with this training, we would have the Archangel program, but we also want to have a program where we train first responders on campus so that we don't have to wait for a situation to be cleared before we start rendering aid. Hopefully, as superintendent, I should be worried about test scores and student attendance, not how to prepare for the eventuality, hopefully we never have to deal with it, of children being murdered. So that's the world we're living in. This is one prong of a multi-pronged approach to solving this. We do need to harden our schools. We desperately need mental health programs. There is no mental health office in Hendry County. From where we sit right now, you're 20 miles from the county line to the nearest hospital. So what we need to do is this is an effort to ensure to parents that their children are safe. And this is one of the things we're going to do, but we have already started to do the assessment and evaluation. We started talking about that at the Tuesday board meeting of what we need to do to strengthen our schools. Okay. Thank you.
I want to make something perfectly clear too, is I don't want to do this. But we have no choice. Again, like Paul said, these are the times we're living in. Society has changed for the worse, and we have to compensate for that and do what we have to do to protect our children. So, well,
It's just mostly if you had to pick out the single greatest strength, is deterrence.
I would say a deterrent. The other thing is and hopefully sooner than later we can get these other layered systems of protections in, talking about the mental health, talking about the better fencing, talking about, the better secure doors, locks, that kind of thing. But even with all of those in place, those are not foolproof. So if someone was to get in, and believe me, if someone truly wants to get in, they can get in. But if that happens, we have to have a fallback plan to be able to stop it. And unfortunately, it's going to be with lethal force. Now, I also want to make something perfectly clear, too. In our program that we've had with our SROs, and like I said at the school board meeting the other night, it's very sad because even since I was a child, school resource officers were there to mentor and guide and help children up through the school system. Anymore, our primary concern is their safety. So our policy is, and it always has been, and it's reiterated to them over and over again, if a school or an active shooter situation happens, that deputy's job in the school is to go on a hunt and kill mission. They're looking for him. They have to stop him immediately because they know seconds count.
You talked about the stringency of the enhancement of the training in addition to what active law enforcement is required by the state or entity. For some people, what is that, an hour thing they put in? Like so many hours makes it extended, or is it like just actual training, more tests?
It's the requirement to qualify. Prime example, on the shooting aspect of it, normally they have to pass with an 80%. We're going to require an 85%. Okay? But again, they're going to be given a lot more one-on-one, starting from ground up. When these people, when they qualify and they pass this test, they're going to be proficient with their firearms. They're going to know what they're doing. So, done.
Will these be paid people or employees of the Sheriff's Department?
Again, that's going to fall on the school board and the superintendent. I'll let him address that.
The short answer is that decision has not even been made yet. Okay, they would be Hendry County School employees. Okay, if they fall within the bargaining units that we have, then that's a bargain issue that we have to go to the table and negotiate. If they aren't, then we would probably have to come up with we may have to come up with some additional compensation to ensure that they'd be willing to say yes to this service. Okay?
How would these people get a concealed weapons permit to carry into school under state law?
Okay. State law prohibits civilians from carrying on school campuses. However, law enforcement officers are allowed to carry. So under Chapter 30.09, for special situations such as this, it allows for me to swear them in and make them deputies.
And under that case, don't they have to go through the full law enforcement training?
No, sir. Actually, they don't have to go through any training. If we have an emergency situation, I can swear you in right now and you would act as a deputy for me. But I'm not going to do that. We're not just going to hand teachers or staff members guns and throw them in our schools. We're going to make sure, because liability falls back on me. So I'm going to make sure that when they're in those schools, they know exactly what they're doing.
Who would be paying for the weapons and the permit costs?
The school board. Yes, sir.
How much into the planning is there involving first responders coordinated with the?
We're actually looking at that right now, Raul. We haven't implemented it yet, but that is something that we definitely want to do. Yes, ma'am.
So since you said the weapons and permitting would be paid for by the school board, does that give the school board the right to then take those as they please, since it's their property? Doesn't belong to the individual that's been deputized?
There are many questions. That's why this isn't going to start tomorrow. The board just had an outline of this program presented to them Tuesday, and we have to give them opportunity to perform their due diligence, to ask these types of questions, to feel comfortable with the liability. We have to present them a budget of what this would cost and the scope of services and sequences of what's going to happen. They have to approve all of this before we even are saying we have such a program.
So they'll be the ones to iron out those details and figure out.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's what I'm saying. March 27th is the earliest I can put this on the agenda. That doesn't mean that's when it's going to go. Okay, but that's the earliest. Now, in terms of training for first responders, we have people on our staff who train first responders now. So we can actually probably put together a piece of the budget to present to the board to say, here's what we want to have happen. Teachers are nurturers, okay? They're not going to sit back and say, yes, I might be willing to take a life, but they will be willing to say, I will help save a life. And to me, that's just as important as anything else. So that would be.
Why aren't the current resource officers carrying or using concealed weapons at this time?
Why are the current school resource officers carrying concealed?
Well, why aren't they using concealed weapons now or carrying weapons now in the schools?
They are carrying weapons.
I thought they were locked in a locker.
They're long rifle.
Oh, they're rifle. Okay,
They're
so they are
rifle.
carrying. Okay.
Yeah, they're not strapped, militarily style and walking around the school, but they have their sidearm on at all times. The problem is we like to have the upper hand.